Hello and welcome back to the Master Real Estate Academy Facebook Live or YouTube Live. We're on all of them, but welcome back. So today's show is about mastering the listing process, and I think it's such an overwhelming process that sometimes real estate agents really kind of can't get out of their head enough to be able to really understand that it is a process. And I learned years ago that just follow the process. Just follow the process. Let the process either get you the listing or lose you the listing. So I'm going to go at it the best. I had a coaching client. Actually, it was today. It was earlier today. And she was really, really struggling with, just is the exact words and what was the exact process. And to be honest with you, there is no exact words. There is a process, but there's no exact words in that process. It's you actually creating that process and the words that go in it. So, but it is a step by step because everything always starts with an opportunity, and we call those leads, right? So that lead can be as warm as somebody directly from your database. So it could be a family member, it could be a good friend, it could be a past client, whatever it is, but somebody that's really close to you, that already knows you, that understands your personality, understands that you're a professional real estate agent. You're going to have to do less selling in that type of an opportunity. But then you have the other opportunity of somebody who gets referred to you. But again, in that type of a situation, as long as the table is set really well for you and that's a close relationship, that's still going to be a pretty easy appointment. As long as you focus on one thing and one thing, oh, well, I focus on this in all the appointments that we go on. And that's building the relationship. And the way that you make a strong relationship with somebody is to try to make a connection. And then, so the third type of lead that you get is somebody you've never even met, right? Or was not referred to you, got them cold. It could be that you're calling a subdivision, you call for a sale buyer, you call expired. So those are three different types of leads. And to be honest with you, the process really is pretty much the same all along the way. The only difference is how that rolls out, right? So it starts off with the lead, and then once you get the lead, then it's converting that lead into an appointment. So an appointment is you set a time and a date to get over to the house to actually talk to them about their process. But before you do that, what I always suggest is that once you schedule the appointment, is that you keep them on the phone to make what I learned from Floyd Wickman years ago is to make it a one-stop gettable appointment. And the way that you do that is to make sure that you have a few ingredients. Obviously, you're going to ask enough questions about the property so that you can do enough information to do a ballpark market analysis, right? So you want to know bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. A lot of this stuff you can find online, but it's also good to be able, even if you know the answers, to ask the questions of them so that they can give you the answers. Have they updated anything? So you're going to get information. And as you're asking that information, you're weaving into the process of, asking, kind of the steps is, you want to make sure that decision makers are going to be there. Because again, if all decision makers aren't going to be there, it's not that you're not going to get the listings. It just increases the odds that you're not going to get the listing at that time because they always have an excuse to be able to say, oh, well, you know what? That's great. I need to talk to whoever. So making sure all decision makers are there. And then obviously having a good idea what they think about the price and what they want to sell their home for is also another ingredient. Knowing their motivation. Why are they moving? Are they moving because of a job transfer, because of move up, because somebody passed away, whatever it is, you got to know the motivation. And then you also want to make sure that you have enough time for what you need to do. And just kind of a general rule of thumb is to have 2 hours scheduled. Obviously, if you need less, then go with less. But I would always try to have 2 hours available. And then before you actually go over to the house, you're going to want to send a pre-listing packet. Okay. You're going to want to send something that starts to sell you before you show up. So those are the ingredients that are going to help. Doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's going to be a one-stop, but it definitely helps. Because there's another type of an appointment is when somebody calls you up and they aren't ready to sell. They don't want to put a sign in the yard, but they want you to come over and they want you to answer some questions. They want you to take a look at their home, and they want to give you an idea of what they need to do in order to prepare it when they are ready to put it on the market. That's not a real listing appointment. That's really kind of a consultation that you're going over there. So you really want to understand that before you actually go over. So basically, you're getting the lead, you're scheduling the appointment, you're setting the odds and stacking the deck in your favor that you're going to get the listing. And just so you know, when you do the pre-qualification on the phone, it will reveal if there is any conditions. And a condition, to me, is something that they absolutely can't do. So they can't list their house unless they know they have their job. They can't list their house unless they know that they got to talk to a bank or to buy the next one or whatever. So those conditions have to be resolved before they move forward anyway. And so now you've got enough information. You do a CMA, you send over a pre-listing packet, and now you prepare to go over. You're preparing yourself mentally to get over to the house. You drive over. I like to listen to some motivational music that gets me going, gets me pumping. I usually like to drive the neighborhood just in case there was any homes that maybe for sale by owners or anything else that condition-wise, parks, whatever that were over there. They're going to help me with my CMA. And then, you just, again, here's another process that you follow. You ring the bell, you smile, you pay them a compliment, you take them to the kitchen table. And all that it's funny to go through that. But at the same time, it's just a mental checklist for yourself. So we all know that you ring the bell, right? But if the bell doesn't work, that you got to make sure that you knock on the phone. We know that. That's how you get them to the door, right? We also want to make sure that you're smiling, that you're dressed to the nines, that you look nice, right? And then you're going to take them to the kitchen table. Now, to me, this is kind of a tricky one, right? So if I know them, if this isn't really a listing and I'm going over for a consultation, I'm not taking them to the kitchen table yet. I'm going to let them take a little control of the appointment. I'm going to ask them to go take a look at the house. If it's a good friend, then I'm listing their home and it's already pretty much a slam dunk. And again, you never want to assume anything, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily going to go to the kitchen table, because the reason why you go to the kitchen table, one of the reasons, is to break the ice, right? So you go to the kitchen table where you're going to break the ice. Well, if you know them and you did a great job of breaking the ice on the phone, you don't necessarily have to go to the kitchen table yet. But I would go to the kitchen table if you still need to break the ice with them. And then once you go to the kitchen table and you break the ice, then you're going to break into your script and your dialogue, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And this is a script. This right here, this is word for word. You're going to want to learn this. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, or Mr. Seller, whoever, John and Jill, before we begin, may I share with you how I work? And they're going to say yes. That gives you control. Then you're going to say something like, well, let me ask you this. Are you familiar with the expired list? Oh, you're not? Well, what it is, it's a list of people that essentially have two things in common. The first thing is that they were unable to go through with their plans, right? So they were unable to get their house sold. And the second thing, in my opinion only, the seller and the agent should have probably never consummated that relationship. Why? Because they were unable to go through with their plans, get the house sold, and ultimately the house just never sold. So would you agree, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Jane and Jill, that we do not want this happening to us? Well, that's great, because I don't want it happening either. I have created literally a 5-step infallible process that literally takes the guesswork out of whether or not you and I should do business together. Now, at that point, if I'm walking through the house, then I'm going to go back to the kitchen table. Once we walk through the house, I'm going to go back to the kitchen table, and then I'm going to say what I just said. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, before we begin, may I share with you how I work? If I haven't broken the ice, and just so you know, you can break the ice also too at the kitchen table. You can break the ice as you're walking through the home. And again, that's something that I've learned through multiple hundreds of listing presentations. So then what you're going to do now that you're at the kitchen table, and the nice thing about being at the kitchen table is you got a place to spread out. So if you have a listing presentation, you can open this up. Now, we used to do a PowerPoint presentation and it broke up into different sections. Now we have a pre-listing book that we send over to them. We have them review it, and then we pull it up when we're over at the house and we go through that, okay? But before you go through that, you're going to go through, you're going to go through the 5-step infallible process. And the 5-step infallible process is, number one, you're going to ask a series of questions that essentially, so that I can get a crystal clear picture of what you want to accomplish. I talked to Jill on the phone before I came over here to ask her a bunch of questions about kind of your situation and then also about the house. But now that I have everybody here together, I want to crystallize those questions, make sure that we're all on the same page. And then that way I really understand what you guys want to accomplish. Fair enough? All right. So then what we'll do, and we've already done it, we've gotten up, we've taken a look at the house, or we haven't, where this is the next step. You're going to go and take a look at the house. And while we're looking at the house, I'd like you to show it to me as you would a buyer. And so that way, with your permission, I would love to point out some things that maybe would possibly make the house a little bit more sellable. Would you be okay with that? You would. Okay, great. And then once we do that, we'll come back to the kitchen table. And we'll go through a customized marketing plan. I really want to get your feedback on your home, your area, your general area, what you guys love about your home, so that I can incorporate that into the marketing of the home. And then once we do that, once we go through the marketing plan, once we kind of go through all of that, then we'll go through the timing. We'll go through the details of everything. So that way you understand the contracts and everything. And then we'll most definitely go through price, because that's probably one of the reasons why you brought me over here, is to talk about price. And then while I'm going through price, I put together a net sheet on kind of a projected price, so that way you understand all the costs that go along with getting your home sold. Does that sound good? So up to this point, do you have any questions? None so far? Okay, great. And then hopefully by the time we're done, Jane and Jill, or Jack and Jill, we will be able to come up with a mutual decision on whether or not you and I should do business this evening. So that's a script. That is definitely a dialogue. It's a step-by-step process you're taking them through, because that is the one thing that's going to differentiate you from any other real estate agent that they talk to, especially if you're in competition. If you're not in competition, I would still go through that process because it makes you look professional. That's the other thing that process does. And so going through all that, then what I would do is we've got it's called a pre-listing book. Okay. It's just a little booklet that we send over to them. It goes through our communication process, goes through our marketing, it goes through the details. And so that's the specific thing, other than bringing over a CMA that's printed out. So we go to CMA, it's printed out. We got the booklet that's printed out. We've got a checklist of things that they can do to prepare the house for the market, cleaning out closets, cleaning the garage, painting this, painting that, all that type of stuff that helps prepare them for the market. So that's kind of the process. And I just wanted to jump on here because I know the agent that I was coaching today, and I know that a lot of agents struggle with this. It's a process. You don't have to know the exact words. If anything, the major thing is to focus on the relationship. Focus on building that one-on-one relationship with them, getting to know them, getting them to talk about themselves, because that's what everybody loves to do. And then just start asking questions. What kind of questions? Any kind of questions. Just ask questions about them, about their situation, why they're in their situation, why they want to move, all of that type of stuff. And if you make a connection with them, if you do not, when you're breaking the ice, you're walking through the house and you're doing that stuff, if you haven't made a connection with them, the chances are they are not going to list with you. So anyhow, that's what I had for today. I want to thank you for tuning in and watching this video. It will also be a post within this, and you can also go to my YouTube page and look at multiple other videos about the listing process, the buying process, lead generation, and everything else. And if you are at all in the need of, if you're not earning the amount of money that you think you should be earning or that you would like to be earning, and you're open to a little bit of help, I would love to be able to get you on the phone for, for a few minutes, talk about the process of coaching and what I think I might be able to do to help you in that process. So again, thanks a lot. And always feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions in regards to real estate 101. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great week.